Are you ready to evacuate with just 15 minutes of notice? Our prep focus for this week is to make sure that you are packed and ready and that you know where you're going. Hey Provident Preppers, I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Kylene. And welcome to week 6 of the 3-month prepping challenge. We are making such great progress, you guys. Last week was week 5 and we did water acquisition and purification. How did you do? Did you make some great progress? If you have questions, make sure that you put it in the comments below and we'll do our very best to answer those for you. But now for week 6, it's all about your emergency evacuation plan and updating your survival kits.
And just in complete honesty here, this is not my favorite thing because I'm a home guy. I love being at home, but we do have to be able to leave. I mean, if the authorities come and say, you're out of here and you've got to leave in 15 minutes, we have to be able to go. We have to grab what we need and be on our way. Now, step number 1 is to review your potential risks, because this determines what kinds of things might happen and how you have to react to those. And that's going to be different for all of us. So review your risks so that you know what it is that might be coming at you and how you need to be able to respond.
And for each one of those risks, you need to determine an appropriate evacuation location. If your risk is that you have a house fire, that destination is going to be very different than if you have to evacuate your city and go to another state because of a hurricane or something like that that's going on. So for every risk, you need an appropriate destination planned and kind of figured out.
Step number 3 then becomes transportation. You know where you're going to go. Now, how are we going to get there? And that's going to be different in different situations and for different people. Some people might go on a horse, some on a scooter, some on a bike, some in a car. Hopefully that's, my ideal is we jump in the car and we take off. But it's, it's going to depend. So you need to figure out what that is, and you need to be able to make sure you can make that happen. One part of that is making sure that your gas tank stays at least half full, and we prefer 2/3 full.
Because remember, when something happens, the majority of people aren't going to have that half tank full, and that half tank can guarantee that you can get out of the immediate area of the disaster. So it is super important. I agree with John. Step number 4 is to create a written evacuation plan. That means taking the maps, mapping it out, and with alternate routes. It's really good if you have A, B, and C, or 1, 2, and 3. So I can tell John that I'm going to take route B, so he knows what's happening if we're not together. So you're going to map them out, and then you are going to make sure that wherever those destinations are, that for us, we are planning to go to some of our children's houses, and they need to be ready to take care of us. In return, some of them are planning to come here if something happens, and we need to be able to make sure that we have everything that we need to take care of them. So this plan, you need to have both the written and you need to have an electronic or a digital copy of the plan.
And I'm glad we talked about this, because in the world that we live in today, pretty much everything's digital. We just rely on our phones. We just do everything electronically. But in the situations that we are talking about, that may not be possible, and these paper maps are invaluable. They are so, so important. Step number 5 is communication, and that includes a lot of different things. That includes the ability to get information, risk and threat assessments, the ability to communicate with others, most especially our family. And part of that communication, as Mama mentioned, is you've got to make sure that everybody that's involved in your communication plan understands their role. If we're going down to our kids' place, but they weren't really sure that that was what was happening, and they're not prepared to accept us and maybe don't even want us there, that's maybe a little dramatic, but that communication just needs to happen all the way around so that everybody understands. And we have tried to let our kids know that, in certain situations, they're going to come here. That's going to be of great value to us and to them, and we are prepared to do that. So this communication is so important.
Assignment number 6 is to update your survival kits, or create one if you haven't. But we want to make sure that you have fresh water, fresh food, that the clothes that are in there still fit, and that you have fresh meds. Take some time, and while you're doing that, think about your changing circumstance. So for me, Jonathan's pretty buff, and taking a backpack around all the time, that's not an issue for him. But for me and my physical condition, I can't do that. So this is actually my survival kit. And I have a backpack that goes on top and attaches to the top of it. I have a lot more stuff than he has, but having it on wheels is really important for me to be able to physically pull it and take care of it. And of course, it has chocolate in it because that is very important to me, and rotating the chocolate has never been an issue.
That would be a bigger disaster than anything I can think of, is not to have chocolate. There are lots of lists out there. You can use them to kind of guide your thoughts, but don't rely on them, because every plan and every person is different, and everybody needs to create what's going to work for them and to meet their needs. So make sure that you build this with a little bit of thought, with a lot of thought, actually.
A lot of thought. And that's one of the reasons why your destination matters so much, because if you are planning on heading to the mountains and surviving without anything else, that's a whole different packing scenario than if I'm planning on going to a hotel or to one of my children's homes. Does that make sense? You're gonna pack completely differently. So make sure that you don't skip those first steps and get a good handle on what your risks are and what your plan would be for each one of those risks.
Now, this might be a breeze for some of you because you've already gone down this road. You've already thought through this. If this isn't you, if this is a first time for you, don't be discouraged. Take the information that we have, and we have lots of good information.
There's lots of links. There's videos you can watch. There's posts. There's some links to different stuff in the comments. Take some time and go through that.
And make this personal to you, and it will happen. And it's not going to be perfect the first time, but nothing ever is. We just do the best we can, and then we build on it.
And now for the question of the day. Last week, the assignment was water, location, acquisition, and how to purify it, making sure you had those tools. What questions do you have for us? What stumbling blocks did you have? What can we do to help provide good information so that you can be successful with last week's assignment? Comment below.
And thanks for being part of the solution.